Good afternoon, everybody. So I am not here to give a presentation or talk anything about academically. I worked in a functional organization which is basically dealing with Divyangjans and how to deliver things to them. So I worked there as CMD for 7 years, and I have the privilege to have first-hand information about the problems and how to empower the persons with disability. As you might be knowing, this particular conference is for achieving the goal of sustainable growth goals set by UN and in 2015. And that goals, 21 goals, 17 goals were framed. Out of that, 3 are very relevant for disability, which is for equality and accessibility and education, in which we have to see that the people with disabilities should get their due in the society in an inclusion way. Just to give my experience, to share my experience, whatever I have done. You see, Divyangjans, everybody is talking about empowering the persons with disabilities. So whatever I have gathered is how to empower a Divyang. As my speakers must have told you, the magnitude of problem and challenge. We have 2.68 crore people by 2011 census who are disabled. Maybe this point of time, it must be a large population. But how to empower them? That is the biggest question. See, to my understanding, first and paramount challenge before anybody, before the policymakers and the society as a large, is to provide functional autonomy. A disabled person is either physically challenged or mentally challenged, visually challenged or intellectually challenged. But how to make him make functional autonomy? Functional autonomy in the sense a person, suppose having a orthopedically impaired, how to bring the mobility first and paramount. The rest of the things, accessibility and other things are subsequently. But the first challenge is how to mobile a immobile person. We and you all who are normal people, who are not facing challenges, has the privilege of I am being here because I am mobile. So orthopedically challenged person has a challenge to be mobile. And how can he be mobile? He can be mobile by providing aids and assistive devices. He has to be provided, if he is a below knee amputee, he has to be provided with a prosthesis by which he can be mobile. Or he is not able to walk, we have to provide either a wheelchair or a tricycle or a motorized tricycle or a scooter which is he can able to drive and mobile. The first challenge is to be mobile. A person who is not hearing properly, maybe hard hearing, having a challenges to leave it. He has to provide it with hearing aid or something. So the first challenge is to empower a person is to provide him the functional autonomy. How he is able to function. Suppose he wants to work somewhere, he has to be mobile. He has to go to that place and work. So prosthesis makes his life easier, or aids and assisted devices can make his life easier. So to me, whatever I have gathered is to empower a physically challenged person is to provide him aids and assisted devices to make him mobile or make his challenge less challenged. The second thing which I feel is, suppose I become mobile, I have the aids and assisted devices, I become more functional autonomous. The second stage is that how to skill them. So I'm talking about a package kind of thing. How to make a person totally empowered. The second thing is to provide skill. And our government, the present government, is making a lot of efforts to provide skill. And you might be knowing that there is a Skill Development Council for Divyangjans in the country who is given the task to provide the skill development. I have an opportunity to work with another public sector undertaking under the DPWD, that is the National Handicap Finance and Development Corporation. That is also in the way of providing skills. So we have to identify the areas in which different kind of challenged people can be given the aids and assisted devices first, and then to give the skilling. So skilling to make him more productive, more inclusive in the society where he is able to perform his functions and he is able to learn. Maybe he is able to go, even if not skill, he is able to go to the university, to the colleges, or to the schools. So mobility plus functional autonomy, and then skill and education. So the goal which we are talking about today is the Sustainable Development Goal. One of goal is education. So that is possible only when we provide them some kind of assisted devices to make him mobile and make him functional so that he is able to take the advantage of whatever is available in public space. The third thing, government is recently increased the reservation for persons with disability, the present government, from 3% to 4%, and from education 4% to 5%. But I think that the challenge is so big that even if the reservation has been enhanced to a great level, to employ them, to employ people, all of them through government job, may not be possible. So assisted devices followed by skill and education. And the third, I always talk about empowering them by giving soft loans so that they are able to start their own entrepreneurship and they are becoming employers rather than to become employee of somebody. Of course, there are a lot of private entrepreneurs who are now ready to employ people with disability. One of the organization and how the disability become the ability I come across during my functions is through one of the leading, fast food chain is now employing people with hearing impairment because they are not being distorted or distracted through any voice, and they are more productive. So we have to really find some places where people get employment. But the end result is that we have to provide, and government is doing its best to provide soft loans for skill followed by soft loan so that they are able to start their business, they are entrepreneurs, they are able to. And honestly, I'm telling you that as our Prime Minister has been telling that he has given the name of Divyangjan, that's in true sense is correct, because this kind of challenged people have a Divya Shakti. And once they are being given this kind of skill development, they become very, very productive, even better, more productive than a normal person. So first is assisted devices, followed by skill development. Third is soft loan. And the fifth is to provide a space where they can be doing their functions, business, and to make it accessible. So more accessibility is finally required. Even if somebody is provided with aids and assisted devices, he is not able to go to the building if the building is not accessible. So I feel that this is to me, what I have practically observed is the roadmap for people to make them disabled and make them able for doing this kind of functions. Just to talk about the organization, because I can see most of the young people are sitting there. Of course, we have a privilege of having our former secretary under whom I have worked, and we both, Madam Camlin, who has been a source of inspiration and always a guiding torch, and we worked together, and we could able to deliver certain things. Now, coming to the point of the organization from which I have come, it is an artificial limbs manufacturing corporation. It used to be not a very limelighted organization a few days back, but after the Divyangjan's issues come under central stage on 2014, after this government took over, and this organization has also come into light. Basically, Alimco makes aids and assisted devices for people with disabilities in public space. This is the only public sector undertaking which make aids and assisted devices. Just briefly, Gupta ji, I will take only 2 minutes to take it. I think I'm on time? Yes. So, two things I would like to tell you that Alimco is the only organization which makes aids and assisted devices of its factories at Kanpur, and we make aids and assisted devices. Over the years, we have, on an average right now, we are giving aids and assisted devices to 2 lakhs people in a year. Earlier, it used to be only 10,000-15,000 people, but now our production capacity has increased and our reach has also been phenomenal in these years. And, Alimco, other people who are making aids and assistive devices in a very private scale, they make high value, low volume products, and we make high volume and low cost product, so that it is able to reach out to many people. With the efforts of the government, even now we have only 10% of people who are provided with aids and assisted devices. So the challenge is very big. So we decided to take the assistance of corporate, and we were very successful by CSR of the corporate bodies, and we are able to generate funds, because how best the government could do in this area, but it will not be able to for them with the constraints to give aids and assisted devices and this kind of help to each and everybody. That the society as a whole and the corporate in particular has to come and support this particular section of society to make it inclusive and to address their problem, so that we are able to achieve the sustainable development goals set by the UN and ratified by our government. And one last thing I would like to tell you, which I used to tell always for the information of everybody. I don't know how many of you are aware that government is providing, and there is a possibility that if a person is not able to hear, or those who are not able to hear, they cannot speak. This is a biological correctness, that the one who is not able to hear, they are not able to speak. So if you find this kind of child, because children normally they start speaking at the age of 3 or 3.5 years or 2.5 years sometime, Now, there is a possibility that such children can be fitted with the assisted devices called cochlear implant. So if they are fitted with this kind of a small surgery takes place at very young age of a child, and that child has normally become a normal child, and he is able to hear as well as he is able to speak. So if you come across such children in your family or neighborhood, or if you're working as an NGO or working in this particular area, please, government has a scheme of providing this kind of assisted devices free of cost in a value of around 6 lakhs rupees. So please take advantage of this particular. Even now, most of the other state government has also started giving free assisted devices. So this is the only way by which we can eradicate the disability, and we are able to make him a normal person, and by providing aids and assisted devices called cochlear implant. So for other information, you can visit our ministry sites for this particular thing. So again, I will tell you that, of course, the challenge is big, but as a society, as a policy maker, as a government, we have to work all together to see that the sustainable goals set for this particular area should be addressed, not only addressed, it should be fully accomplished. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarin Saab. It was wonderful to hear you. Thank you for raising us about the different schemes and where you started from, and now reaching up to 2 lakh people. So LMCO certainly is doing a phenomenal job, and so I think it's a flagship, undertaking of the government, and especially Ministry of Social Justice Empowerment. And I think all this came under one dynamic lady who's with us today, and it's none other than Srimati Shakuntala Dolly Gamblin ma'am. जोड़ा तालियां हो जाए इनके लिए स्वागत के लिए. I think thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us, and we have her as a session chair. We have her as a session. जोड़ा तालियां. She's a phenomenal lady, and she's a role model for all of us. Thank you, ma'am, for joining. बड़े ही ये विचित्र सी बात है, हमेशा आज तक हमने मैम को हमने सुना ही, और आज हम ऐसा चांस हुआ कि मैम थोड़ा देर पहले आ गए, हम मैम बैठे हुए हैं. रियली मैम हम लोग आपके सामने बोल पाए, ये भी बड़ी अतिशोक्ति है, बट सर्टेनली इट्स अ learning that we've done over the years from you, and the phenomenal work that you've done. Thank you. So now coming to what Sarin Saab has said, and what Uday Sinha sir has given us some insights, we have two more very valuable speakers. One who's coming from an all India level organization, who's doing phenomenal work in the placement and training of individual persons with disabilities. And then we have Professor R. Bhaskar, who's himself to my left, who himself is working on the SDGs from the IGNU. And so I'll request, because our dear friend Malika Arjun sir is phenomenal, is a grassroots leader. He did some wonderful work in the Divya Kala Mela at India Gate recently on 3rd of December. I was happy to be a part of it. And together with Saksham, he's doing a lot of work. So जोरदार तालियों से हम स्वागत करते हैं. A wonderful insight by Professor Uday Sinha. I think something what he spoke, sir, we already have a part of it as a part of a declaration which we are going to come out with. We have planned a Delhi declaration. आज शाम को एक declaration निकाल रहे हैं. So we'll hopefully after the session we'll put some of your points there as well. So the IT team should please hurry up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Mukeshji, for inviting me. And also thank you very much to the organizers to make this event inclusive. And esteemed panelists on the dais, respected Dr. Kamlesh Pandeyji, our mentor, Shakuntala ma'am, Sanjay Prasad ji, and dear friends. So already many things have been spoken, and there is a time constraint, but I'll try to do it in 7 to 8 minutes time, and then we can discuss. First of all, I would like to invite all of you to appreciate the sign language interpreters today. Let us give them a big round of applause. मेरा एक प्रश्न है, क्या कोई बता सकते हैं मिस इंडिया 2023 कौन है? Can anybody say recently announced? So friends, भारत इंक्लूसिव बन रही है, इसके बहुत सारे इंडिकेशंस हमारे सामने है. वर्षा डोंगरे फ्रॉम इंदौर, a SHI candidate, has been chosen as Miss India 2023, and very soon she is going to get into a global competition. जब हम G20 का प्रेसिडेंसी में है, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स की बात कर रहे हैं, तो हमारे पास क्या है वो समझना बहुत जरूरी है. भारत का पहला फिल्म कच एक्सप्रेस, पहला ऐसा फिल्म होगी जो एक्सेसिबल फिल्म होगी, जो पीवीआर थिएटर्स में रिलीज होने वाली है साइन लैंग्वेज इंटरप्रिटेशन के साथ 100+ सिनेमाओं में. दिस इज अ सेकंड गुड न्यूज. Why I am saying is, we are talking about counseling. How do we look persons with disability in this country? भारत जैसे बदल रही है, एंटायर सेक्टर. माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी जब दिव्यांगजन शब्द दिया, हमारा डिफरेंट ओपिनियंस हो सकते हैं, बट एक सेक्टर के नाते हम लोग उभर के आए हैं. सो वंस दिस स्टार्टेड हैपनिंग, पीपल स्टार्टेड सीइंग द एबिलिटीज, नॉट द डिसेबिलिटीज, एंड स्टार्टेड लुकिंग एट सो इन दैट shift only, the role of counselors, the role of rehabilitation professionals and social entrepreneurs like us will change. Looking at the market lenses, मैं हमेशा यही कहता हूँ कि दिव्यांगजन भी कंज्यूमर है, एक पोटेंशियल कंज्यूमर है. जिस दिन हम ये देखना शुरू करेंगे तो हमारा नजरिया सर्विसेज का बदल जाएंगे. हाउ बिग इज दिस सेक्टर? कुछ डाटा तो आपने सुना है, लेकिन इसको समझते हैं कि कितना बड़ा सेगमेंट है. डिसेबिलिटी, पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी इन इंडिया आर लाइक ए कंट्री. ऑस्ट्रेलिया का जनसंख्या के बराबर है. सभी स्कैंडिनेवियन कंट्रीज मिला के जितना जनता है उतना अपने देश में दिव्यांगजन है. और कनाडा से केवल एक 10% पॉपुलेशन घटा देंगे तो उतना पीडब्ल्यूडीज हमारे देश में है. दिस इज अ पॉपुलेशन. अगर आज सेंसस किया जाए, हम सबका मानना है कि 7 to 8% भारत में पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी मिलेंगे. अगर किसी को ये लग रहा है कि इस कन्वेंशन हॉल में हम दिव्यांगजन नहीं है, तो आज अपने मस्तिष्क में लिख के जाए, हम सब दिव्यांगजन है. अगर आज नहीं है तो 5 साल में बनने वाले हैं, अगर नहीं तो 60 जैसे ही आप पार करेंगे आप इसी कैटेगरी में आएंगे. सो वाई वी नीड टू टॉक अबाउट दिस सेक्टर is such an important thing. And then if you look at दुनिया का पॉपुलेशन कितना है, 3.3 बिलियन. सर ने एक बहुत अच्छा डाटा दिया, बट 1 बिलियन लोग दिव्यांगजन है. हम किसी को माइनॉरिटी बोल ही नहीं सकते. दुनिया का बिगेस्ट माइनॉरिटी इज पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी, ये फैक्ट है. सो इसी वजह से जो भी रिहैब प्रोफेशनल्स है, अब केवल भारत उनके लिए मार्केट नहीं है, विश्व उनके लिए मार्केट है. वर्ल्ड इज अ मार्केट प्लेस फॉर देम. सो वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द एस्पिरेशंस ऑफ पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज. वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड सेवरल ग्लोबल फ्रेमवर्क्स. वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड द टाइप ऑफ वर्क दैट ऑल ऑफ यू आर डूइंग, हाउ दैट इज रिलेटेड टू सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स. थोड़ा सा सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स को समझते हैं. 17 गोल्स तो हमारे सामने दिख रहे हैं. इन 17 गोलों में 5 गोल्स आर वेरी स्पेसिफिक mentioned about persons with disability. Which are these 5 goals? Goal number 4, education. Goal number 8, economic related. Goal number 10, socio-economic. Goal number 11, accessible cities. Goal number 17, partnership के अंदर data collection. So there are specific mandates which have been mentioned under these goals. But केवल 5 गोल नहीं है, another 4 गोल ऐसे हैं जो interrelated है, जो इसको इफेक्ट करता है. तो अगर भारत को विश्व गुरु बननी है तो ये सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स को अचीव करते ही होगा. जो मोस्ट मार्जिनलाइज्ड, मोस्ट एक्सक्लूडेड, अनलेस अंटिल वी ऑल इंक्लूड देम, वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू अचीव नेदर द इकोनॉमिकल 5 trillion, 8 trillion ड्रीम और आवर ड्रीम ऑफ बिकमिंग विश्व गुरु. सो व्हाट इज दैट G20 presidency? All the countries have agreed upon to introduce an assessment instrument during this year, so that each country now has to report inclusion space में उन्होंने क्या किया, what are the interventions that they have done, how they are trying to mainstream this population and what type of measures that they are taking. हमने एक भारत में बहुत बड़ा स्टडी किया सक्षम आइडिया के माध्यम से, ये समझने की कोशिश किया कि बहुत सारे सरकारों में हम स्कीम्स लाते हैं, लेकिन अक्सर ये स्कीम एक फंड में कन्वर्ट होती है, वो फंड अनयूटिलाइजेशन में रह जाती है। तो हम लोगों ने सक्षम के माध्यम से जानने की कोशिश किया कि इस देश के दिव्यांगजन क्या चाहते हैं, व्हाट आर देयर एस्पिरेशंस, व्हाट आर देयर ड्रीम्स, इज देयर एनी गैप बिटवीन व्हाट गवर्नमेंट्स आर थिंकिंग एंड क्या दिव्यांगजन कर सकते हैं। तो केवल एक आंकड़ा मैं आपके सामने रख रहा हूँ। एम्प्लॉयबल एज में इस देश में 70.5% विद डिसेबिलिटी है, उसमें अगर आप देखेंगे ओनली 21.8% ओनली आर अचीविंग देयर गोल्स। अगर इनका एस्पिरेशन है कि मुझे जॉब चाहिए, उसका एस्पिरेशन है कि मुझे एक अच्छा जीवन बिताना चाहिए, तो इवन दिस 70% पॉपुलेशन में भी ओनली 21.5 पीपल आर अचीविंग। So many of the schemes, well-intended schemes, are also not able to cater to the aspirations of the Divyangjan because of the several things that Sarin sir talked about, the skill gap, the skill mapping, and also linking up with the industries, linking up with the mobility problems. तो जैसे हम समझते हैं कि एक दिव्यांगजन है तो वो उद्यमी नहीं बन सकता है, ये बाहर कैसे जाएंगे, कैसे काम कर सकते हैं। जैसे हम समझते हैं कि कोई दिव्यांगजन है तो केवल एंट्री लेवल जॉब्स के लिए ही ठीक है, बट नोबडी अंडरस्टैंड्स 5% रिजर्वेशन के बाद इस देश में बहुत ज़्यादा हायर एजुकेशन में PhD, M.Tech, B.Tech करने वाले बहुत सारे दिव्यांगजन हैं, तो उनके लिए कोई लेटरल एंट्री सिस्टम नहीं है। बिकॉज ऑफ दैट देयर आर सेवरल चैलेंजेस। सो अगर SDG और इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के बात में आते हैं तो पैराडाइम शिफ्ट की जो बात करते हैं, जस्ट 2 मिनट में मैं कहूँगा कि पैराडाइम शिफ्ट क्या होनी चाहिए। पैराडाइम शिफ्ट ये होनी चाहिए कि इस देश की युवा, इस देश की महिला, इस देश की दिव्यांगजन, इस देश में एनीबडी हु इज मार्जिनलाइज्ड, वी शुड मैप देयर एस्पिरेशंस, व्हाट दे वांटेड टू डू विद देयर लाइफ, आर दे रियली एबल टू कनेक्ट विद द नेशनल ड्रीम। अगर कल को भारत विश्वगुरु बनेगी तो उसका अग्रिम पंक्ति में बैठने वाले क्या ये मार्जिनलाइज कम्युनिटीज हो सकते हैं कि नहीं हो सकते। अगर वो नहीं है, अभी जैसे हम कर रहे हैं कि 30-40 बिलियनियर्स ओनली विल रन द कंट्री, सो विश्वगुरु बनने के बाद भी उसका इंक्लूसिव डेवलपमेंट नहीं होने वाला है। तो अगर उनको अग्रिम पंक्ति में लेके आना है तो व्हाट इज दैट माइंडसेट शिफ्ट दैट वी नीड टू डू। काउंसलिंग की बहुत अच्छी बात हुई, हम लोगों के सामने बहुत सारे अनुभव है। पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी को काउंसिल करना उतना आसान बात नहीं है। विथ माई ओन पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस आई हैव सीन, एक मेथडोलॉजी में एक ही व्यक्ति के साथ नहीं हो सकता है। इधर दे आर लो एस्टीम्ड और दे आर हाईली प्रिविलेज्ड। और जैसे हम महिला सशक्तिकरण की बात करते थे, जैसे हम ट्राइबल की बात करते हैं, जैसे हम दलितों की बात करते हैं, दिव्यांगता में भी हमें समझना पड़ेगा कि कोई अमीर घर से है तो उनके पास सब साधन है, ऐसा नहीं है। दे आर स्टिल हैविंग वेरी लो एस्टीम इन देर आर मेनी neo rich people where persons with disability are there, they shy away even disclosing the disability for several reasons. तो हमें इसको एक कम्युनिटी के नाते देखते हैं। तो एंड इफ वी नीड टू स्ट्रैटेजाइज सम ऑफ द कम्युनिटी बेस्ड मॉडल्स, काउंसलिंग में इनोवेटिव टेक्नोलॉजी लाना पड़ेगा। काउंसलिंग के अंदर बहुत कस्टमाइजेशन लानी पड़ेगी कि इस व्यक्ति को अगर लो एस्टीम से है तो उनको सेल्फ रिलायंट बनाने का प्रोसेस क्या हो सकता है। So 2 such instruments we are adopting and we are doing, which is giving really. So we had set up India's first दिव्यांगजन incubation center. हम लोगों का मानना है कि हमारा मिशन है कि आने वाले 5 साल में सक्षम आइडिया के माध्यम से 5000 दिव्यांगजन उद्यमियों का एक इकोसिस्टम हम खड़ा करेंगे। और दिव्यांगजन जिनको अभी तक हम सोचते थे कि इनको कुछ देना है, वो देने वाला बनेगा। तो दे विल बिकम एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेटर्स। एक दिव्यांगजन नॉन दिव्यांगजन को भी जॉब देने की स्थिति में हो सकते हैं। इस जर्नी में अभी तक पिछले 1.5 साल में हम लोग 20 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में 350 उद्यमियों को खड़ा कर चुके हैं। इस मार्च तक 500 दिव्यांगजन उद्यमी खड़े होंगे जो लगभग 10 करोड़ के आसपास का बिजनेस अभी कर रहे हैं। और आपका जानकारी के लिए मैं कह दूं, आज इंडिया में जो बिगेस्ट दिव्यांगजन एंटरप्रेन्योर है उनका टर्नओवर 130 करोड़ है और 400 लोगों को वो एम्प्लॉयमेंट देते हैं। जो नेक्स्ट लेवल पे है उनका टर्नओवर 40 करोड़ है। केवल एक प्रोडक्ट बेच के, एक कैंडल बेच के वो 400 दृष्टिबाधितों को एम्प्लॉय करते हैं। तो इसी तरीके से काउंसलिंग में एक और इंटरवेंशन हम कम्युनिटी बेस्ड इंटरवेंशंस कैसे हो सकते हैं। एक नेटवर्क हम लोग खड़ा कर रहे हैं जिसका नाम धन नेटवर्क है, दिव्यांगजन हुनर आत्मनिर्भर नेटवर्क। ये नेटवर्क उनका अपना खुद का नेटवर्क होगा, तो हाउ डू वी रियली एक इंस्पिरेशनल मॉडल विद इन द कम्युनिटीज हम लोग कैसे डेवलप कर सकते हैं, उनके माध्यम से मास्टर काउंसलर्स को किस तरीके से निकाल सकते हैं रेगुलर वे में. काउंसलिंग विल प्ले वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल बिकॉज माइंड सेट इज द बिगेस्ट चैलेंज इन दिस सेक्टर. अगर माइंड सेट को हमें चेंज करना है तो उसको जड़ से चेंज करने की बहुत जरूरी है. सो इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट इफ यू look at, so several indicators, this detailed study we will share. So I just wanted to
conclude, sir.
Yeah, I'm just saying sustainable development goals के objective में अगर हम देखते हैं एक इंक्लूसिव मॉडल बनाने की, इंक्लूसिव मॉडल बनाने का सबसे पहले शुरुआत होती है सोच से. एक व्यक्ति को समान रूप से देखने का सोच, अगर ये सोच हम लोग डेवलप कर सकते हैं तो वहीं से शुरुआत होगी. इसमें कोई भी और एबिलिटीज भी हो. कहीं ना कहीं हम गलती क्या करते हैं कि एक दिव्यांगजन को एक छोटा सा काम अचीवमेंट कर लिया उसको ग्लोरीफाई करते हैं एंड वी थिंक दैट एज इफ दैट इज अ वेरी बिग थिंग एंड दैट इज अ मोस्ट डेंजरस थिंग दैट वी आर डूइंग. सो वी शुड थिंक अबाउट ए इनोवेटिव मॉडल कि किस तरीके से दिव्यांगजन के एबिलिटीज को, स्किल को मैप करते हुए हम उनके साथ एक सही दिशा निर्देश हम उनको कर सकते हैं. सो एनीबडी वुड बी इंटरेस्टेड टू वॉलंटियर ऑन द ग्राउंड, मुकेश जी के माध्यम से आ सकते हैं. कम से कम 500 ऐसे काउंसलर्स को हम स्कोप दे सकते हैं, एक दिव्यांगजन परिवार के साथ बिठा के उनकी दिशा और दशा बदलने में हम सब लोग योगदान दे सकते हैं. एंड आई फर्मली बिलीव अब भारत को विश्वगुरु बनाने से कोई नहीं रोक पाएगा, बट उस विश्वगुरु के अग्रिम पंक्ति में आप और हम रहेंगे नहीं रहेंगे ये हमको तय करनी पड़ेगी. उसकी ये जर्नी के लिए एंटायर इकोसिस्टम को हमें बिल्ड करना पड़ेगा. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. थैंक यू.
थैंक यू मलिक जी, दैट वाज रियली इंसाइटफुल एंड वेरी मोटिवेटिंग. वैसे मैं आपसे शेयर करना चाहूँगा, जो यहाँ पे कुछ काउंसलर्स बैठे हैं, मेरे कोलीग्स मैं देख रहा हूँ. सर आपको आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर दैट probably we'll conclude. We have Mr. R. Bhaskar with us. After him, I'll just give the closing remarks and I'll share some success stories, Malik ji, जो आप suggest कर रहे हैं, and we would want to build up with you together on that. Professor R. Bhaskar, who's from School of Science, Indira Gandhi National Open University. He is heading the SDG outlook from the university point of view. 35 लाख छात्र जो इंदिरा गांधी नेशनल ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ते हैं और 37 लाख छात्र जो यहाँ से एलुमनाई हो चुके हैं, तो आई थिंक ये 73 लाख लोग जो पूरा परिवार है, इसको आप दिशा दे रहे हैं.
नमस्कार सभी को. आई एम ग्रेटफुल टू डॉक्टर एस के प्रसाद, डायरेक्टर एनसीडीएस, एंड मुकेश गुप्ता जी, who gave an opportunity to share my thoughts with you. Already he told me that this is happy hours, that means we have entered lunch time. So I will try to be very brief and I will focus on essentials. This already, you know, this disability is included in the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals so that nobody is left behind. Goal 4 deals with, the education. And in education also, it is important, it is mentioned that we should include persons with disabilities, indigenous people, and children in vulnerable situations. So you are seeing that this is an all-inclusive agenda. Now, what is the urgency? What is the difference between Millennium and Sustainable Development Goals? In Millennium Development Goals, we did not have mention of disability. But here, we have a specific program in Sustainable Development Goals. Let me tell you in one line, all the goals are interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent. You cannot achieve one goal and at the cost, everything is linked. For example, goal number 1, no poverty. If you are poor, then other things get affected. Similarly, if you are not educated, you don't get employment. So this is a cycle which keeps on going. Why there is an urgency to review the SDG? There are 3-4 reasons. One, COVID pushed many of the achievements. And if you see the reports, we are far behind the targets. In every sector, we are far behind. Before that, also if you see, before the COVID, but what COVID did to education, if you see even the handicapped children or normal children, this term is being given to them that they are pandemic generation. And their mental health has been affected because they were staying in homes and doing the study, and many of them face the digital divide, all those things. Now, if you see the first one, that even when the goals were set up, there were many who felt they are not realistic. And, they were skeptical, and probably they were true, because a number of challenges were already there, which we are seeing. The second one is even the data which we got in SDG different goals, it was presumed that it may be inflated or not true, because every country wanted to project that it is achieving the goals. Then the third one is effective action in climate change. You're seeing climate change, how it is affecting all of us. It's a very important goal, and it has been mentioned in 49 targets. And if you see, whenever prime ministers and presidents meet of country, one or two issues are commonly included. One is climate change, second is terrorism. Why? Climate change is going to affect all the goals, and especially the poor and vulnerable ones will be most affected. And fourthly, you are seeing that conflicts are there. So if you see the conflicts, for example, in Ukraine, you are seeing the conflict, or other areas, unrest is there. This is affecting the achievement of the goals. So if you see the UN report which has come recently, it says that several environmental targets are affected, essentially because of climate crisis, COVID-19, and war in Ukraine. Of course, there is more unrest in many places. Now, inclusion is in the heart of SDG. There is no goal which does not follow this principle. Inclusion is the heart of the goal, and the development cannot be sustainable without including. And if there is inequality, including not including the disabled, then there will be economic anxiety, erodes public trust, undermines social cohesion, human rights, peace, and prosperity. Now, if you see, my colleagues, friends mentioned, in SDGs, 5 goals have the mentioned specifically about disability. SDG 4 on quality education, SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth, SDG 10 on reduced inequalities, SDG 11 on sustainable cities and communities, and SDG 17 on partnership for goals. Let me tell you, when UN takes a decision, the world, when they are becoming party to that, then we all follow. Even the Right to Disability Act, persons which we have, is because of 2006 decision which UN took. It took 16 years. In 2016, we had this. Now, what are the strategies? Very quickly, we have to create inclusive, ambitious plan so that not a single disabled child is left out. And implementing is very much important, which is required of international standards. Even today, despite the law being passed, implementation is not to the satisfaction. Even the order which has come, it is mostly to the government institution, government buses, but it is not coming in the whole inclusive society. Then we have to increase the capacity, resources, and leadership. The people who deal with them, those who their capacity should be increased. The resources, the financial and intellectual resources should be increased, and funds should be efficiently utilized. Sometimes funds are there, the funds go to specific schools or specific states or specific areas. It should be equitable distribution so that it should be done. Then all classrooms should be inclusive, and there should be appropriate equipment for these category of students, and physical barriers must be removed. I'm going slightly fast. And we should provide qualified teachers, teachers who understand how to deal and teach the disabled, disadvantaged sections of the society. So we require specialist teachers who have undergone training. This base has to be increased so that they are compassionate and they can identify and support and mentor them. Then we should also, we are lacking real quality data. Unless we increase disability and education data and accountability, we cannot form any policy. We should have robust data based on which policy is implemented effectively, and there should be accountability. Then we should inclusive education should be through cross-sectoral policies and strategies. It should not be only in education. It should be several interventions in the social, cultural, and economic systems. Then my previous speaker mentioned, we should challenge the discriminatory attitudes. They are specially abled. They are not having any challenge. In fact, he has given examples of Miss India and other things. They are really, and they are giving employment. This attitude should change. This requires mass outreach activities, and even if you think special schools are required for them, which is good, but when you leave them away from the mainstream school, then the standards can slightly be different. So we should try to integrate them. Then my friend mentioned about Vishwaguru and new education policy. New education policy clearly mentions that it will be a barrier-free access to education for all children with disabilities. And it will train teachers who know how to teach them. And they will be given assistive devices, appropriate technology, tools and languages which will be there. Teaching materials will be available, which will be useful. Now, if you have to realize the sustainable development goals by, for and with persons with disabilities, then we should all plan the SDGs aligned with disability agenda. People with disabilities and representative organizations should be actively involved in implementation of these SDGs. We should invest in awareness, knowledge and capacity building. We should have inclusive education systems based on right-based analysis, which are a part of larger strategy. It should not be a marginal issue. Then we should, these steps are very central to achieving high quality education for all learners and creating more inclusive and sustainable societies. Thank you very much. I try to go very fast.
Thank you
so much. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
That was really fast. Thank you, Bhaskar sir.
Thank you.
Any questions before we really move ahead? Any one, two questions? We are still not over. I know lunch was good yesterday. We cannot have the same promise. Yes, one question. Yes, in the center lady. The lady in the center, yes.
Sir, that is why I mentioned here outreach activity.
Sir, until and unless we will not sensitize the society, then our purpose will not be.
Sir, one of the strategies I mentioned is outreach strategy. I went slightly fast because he indicated to me and I could see but outreach is very important. What you say, unless we sensitize, we cannot change the attitude. And just like you see, now I'm giving only 1 minute, sir. Today, if you see, because of environmental awareness, if you throw plastic or paper, the child says, Papa, aise kyun karte ho? Because now we have created that. Climate change is in everybody's mouth. They understand something is changing because of outreach campaign. If you see, earlier science never occupied the front pages of newspaper, but now you're seeing climate change coming in the front page. This issue also should be in the center stage, and media should play an important role in this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I think what Professor Yadav, I know him personally because he's been working on this issue, and I'm sure we share with your concerns, and I think he really wanted to cover it up. And the idea is that we are all together in this. We are in the same boat. To summarize, I think we had a fantastic session. We started 15 minutes late. We are almost 15 minutes, like to talk of minutes, we have already on time. But yes, as per the Prasad sir is smiling, so he's saying, no, we are late for 10 minutes otherwise. Yes, please.
So, sir, fantastic question. तो मैं केवल आपको ये कहना चाहूँगा, अगर मेरी आवाज़ आ रही है तो
माइक दीजिए.
केवल एक काम करके हम कर सकते हैं जो सक्षम के अंदर हम लोग कर रहे हैं. हम हर एक व्यक्ति को दिव्यांगजन मित्र बोलते हैं. एक दिव्यांगजन को हमें आइडेंटिफाई करनी है और उनका अभिभावक बनना है, उनके साथ चाय पीना है, छोटे छोटे चीज़ें करनी है. और ऐसा लगभग सक्षम के अंदर पूरा देश भर में भी 10,000 से ज़्यादा दिव्यांगजन मित्र, कोई प्रोफेसर है, कोई सीईओ है, कोई किसी ऑफिस में काम करते हैं, कोई रिक्शा वाला है, लेकिन एक रिक्शा वाला भी उनका मित्र बन सकते हैं. इतना ही करना है. इसी से आई थिंक मुझे लगता है कि बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छा हो सकता है.
थैंक यू सो मच. आई थिंक वी गिव अ लोगो ऑल्सो, ईच वन रीच वन टीच वन. जो हमारे यहाँ छात्र बैठे हैं विजन दिव्यांग फाउंडेशन में, सर we started with each one reach one teach one. So we have a WhatsApp mentor group wherein there are counselors from this group, sir, who are reaching out, and they have adopted means they have taken care of the children. और WhatsApp group हमेशा buzzing रहता है. 3-4 ग्रुप्स हैं. आई एम नॉट एबल टू फॉलो देम रेगुलरली, बट दोज ग्रुप्स आर all honorary, and I thank all the councillors there which they are doing. So this kind of little hand holding is very important. Just to sum up what was said today, I think probably we are coming up with a souvenir which will contain all the detailed report, and we'll be mentioning the fine points. But certainly there was lot to take back. And personally, I think something which Professor Uday has mentioned, and we will be putting out in the declaration of the conference as well in the evening, sir, that we need to have psychologists who need to be trained on various issues of disability. So there are specializations which are created. I think that was a fantastic this thing. And what LMCO was, Dr. Sareen has said about accessibility, how they are going ahead, and how we cannot keep ourselves limited to the scope of counseling only. We just cannot say, ले आपने कहा हम ये हमारा काम नहीं है, वो वकील से पूछिए, ये हमारा काम नहीं है. तो I think interdisciplinary approach, जो काउंसलर्स यहाँ बैठे हैं, कुछ लोग सोचते होंगे कि सर काउंसलिंग की बात कितनी हो रही है, SDG से हमें क्या मतलब है. ऐसा नहीं है. एक माँ जो होती है वो माँ को उसको सब दुनिया पता होता है. वैसे एक काउंसलर जो होता है स्कूल के अंदर, कॉलेज के अंदर, उसको सब पता रहता है. द काउंसलर इज वन पर्सन, जो सुबह मॉर्निंग सेशन में बोला था, शायद रेनू मांडवी मैम ने बोला, किससे बोला था, शी इज वन पर्सन हु इज लाइक द एपिसेंटर ऑफ द एंटायर स्कूल और द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. प्रिंसिपल का मूड कैसा है, टीचिंग स्टाफ कौन है, नॉन टीचिंग स्टाफ क्या हो रहा है, पेरेंट ने झगड़ा किसने किया है. तो काउंसलर इज द बजिंग फोर्स. एंड प्रसाद सर ने बोला, वी ऑल हैव अ काउंसलर इन अस. हम लोग सब काउंसलर्स किसी न किसी तरीके से हैं. तो सवाल ये नहीं कि हम लोग क्या, व्हाट वी नीड टू टेक बैक इज द डिफरेंट इंप्रेशंस. सो वी आर काउंसलर ट्रेन्ड बाय द कोर्स विच वी हैव डन. वी हैव एक्सपीरियंसेस ऑफ आवर ओन, and conferences like these will add on to our knowledge, information, connections, resources, and know-how, and the willingness to come out with more research, more passion towards the field, and to seek out, reach out, and do more. That is what you should, the takeaway should be. तो आप लोग जो आए हैं, अपने पिन होल कैमरा से मत देखिएगा कि सर केवल काउंसलिंग के बारे में क्या बात हो रहा है. कि जो सर ने कहा, ऑल गोल्स आर इंटरडिपेंडेंट एंड नॉट दे आर नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट. अगर कोई आदमी भूखा है, गरीब है, तो उसको मैं एजुकेशन की बात कैसे कर पाऊंगा मैं. तो फंटास्टिकली ही सेड दैट. आई थिंक, एंड लेट मी टेल यू द मोटो ऑफ दिस एसडीजी इज लीव नो वन बिहाइंड. तो आई थिंक एसडीजी जो मैंने कल भी कहा था कि ये एसडीजी तो इंक्लूजन की बात कर रहा है. तो अगर मैं एसडीजी बोलता हूं तो इंक्लूजन की बात हो रही है, जब उसका मोटो ही है लीव नो वन बिहाइंड. तो हम लोग इंक्लूजन की बात ही कर रहे हैं. तो 1 to 3, 1 to 17, 4 मेरा है, 4 गोल नंबर 8 मेरा है, 12 मेरा है, सब मेरा है. वी आर ऑल इंटरकनेक्टेड, वी आर द सेम बोट. पेट खाली है तो भी प्रॉब्लम है, क्लाइमेट खराब है तो भी मैं पढ़ाई नहीं कर पाऊंगा. मैं अगर वायरस घुस गया मौसम में, स्कूल सारे बंद हो गए. सो वी हैव टू बी कंसर्न्ड अबाउट वॉट एवर वी आर डूइंग हियर. सो अगर कोई यहाँ पे आके जो भी कुछ बोल रहा है, कह रहा है, उसको पॉजिटिवली हमें लिखना है. और जिसके जो एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं, बिकॉज आई हैड अ टॉक, व्हाई आई एम सेइंग दिस इज देयर इज अ बैकग्राउंड टू दिस. देयर सम पीपल टॉक टू मी, सर हमें काउंसलिंग के बारे में और बताइए, इसके बारे में बताइए. सो वॉट एवर इज बीन स्पोकन, दीज आर अथॉरिटीज फ्रॉम देयर ओन फील्ड्स. ईच वन हैव देयर ईयर्स ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस, ईयर्स एंड ईयर्स ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस. अगर हम करोड़ों रुपए खर्च करेंगे तो जाके वो नुकसान करेंगे तो सीखने में आएगा. बट आई थिंक दीज पीपल आर हियर टू शेयर द एक्सपीरियंस. सरीन सर का 7 साल का जो एक्सपीरियंस है, जिन्होंने एलिम को खड़ा किया, एंड भास्कर सर इज डूइंग ऑन एसडीजीज, एंड व्हाट प्रोफेसर उदय इज डूइंग विद मेंटल हेल्थ, एंड इभास इज डूइंग. इभास की जो लेगेसी है, जो हिस्ट्री है, वो कैरी कर रहे हैं अपने शोल्डर्स पे. एंड मलिक जी इज लाइक द, आई थिंक वन ऑफ द बडिंग, ही हिमसेल्फ इज अ सोशल एंटरप्रेन्योर. और जिस प्रकार से ये इन्होंने 3.5 लाख लोगों को आपने कितने जिलों में, देश भर के जिलों में काम कर रहे हैं. So each one of us is an inspiration for us, or I think souvenir will carry more of this information, what the sessions took place, what the presentations were. The soft copies will be made in the email, WhatsApp groups to send to you. So try and be a learner. इसको ये बारिश हो रही है, बरसात हो रही है. Let's take back as much as we can. And with these words, I conclude the session. Thank you so much, and kindly pardon me for trying to tell you to cut short. I'm really sorry and apologize for the same to all my speakers. So I'm really sorry and apologize. But definitely would like to learn more and listen to you more in the coming times. Thank you so much.
Speakers to be seated.
Just be seated, beta. Just a minute. Just to our speakers for the wonderful session at that time they've taken out. So
definitely, I genuinely appreciate the input of all the speakers on the dais. And now I would request Prasad sir also to please come up on the stage. And Mukesh sir, please, I request you to kindly felicitate our speakers with souvenirs.
अगर अच्छा लगे जोरदार ताली हो जाए इसके लिए.
Professor Uday Sinha, sir. Professor R. Bhaskar, sir. And Shri Mallikarjun Ayatha, sir. We present the souvenirs. Bhaskar, sir. I request all the delegates on the stage to kindly place themselves for a group photograph. Dolly Gamlin, IAS, former Secretary, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. We are delighted to have your presence, ma'am. Pandey, sir, on stage. Request Mukesh, sir, Pandey, sir, to kindly welcome our guest of honor, Ms. Shakuntala Dolly Gamlin, ma'am, IAS, former Secretary, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. We are about to proceed for lunch, but before that, I would like to announce, when we get back, we'll be starting with theme 6, which is continuous monitoring and innovative strategies for full inclusion. The lunch break is for half an hour, and I hope to see you on time. Thank you. Communications, policies, opportunities, access, and attitude. The 7 pillars of inclusion. But what all is required to achieve these is commitment, courage, cognizance of bias, curiosity, cultural intelligence, and collaboration, but most importantly, inclusion. With this, we announce our session 3, theme 6, open with the topic continuous monitoring and innovative strategies for full inclusion. I would now request the session chair, Mr. Shakuntala Dolly Gamlin, ma'am, IAS, former Secretary, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, to kindly please come up on the stage and take her place on the dais. Before she takes her place, I request Mukesh sir and Prasad sir to kindly welcome her. I also request Kusum Gupta ma'am to kindly address her. Ma'am, please welcome her with a planter. On stage, the rest of the 3 speakers as well. Dr. Rachna Singh, National Project Coordinator, ILO. Dr. Rachna Singh, National Project Coordinator, ILO. Sharma sir, IAS, former Secretary, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. I request Prasad sir and Mukesh sir to kindly welcome sir with a planter and welcome Rachna Singh ma'am with a planter. I request Dr. Bharat Bhushan sir, Director, Student Service Center, IGNOU, to kindly take a seat on the dais. We're extremely delighted to have the members and the speakers on the dais here today. Thank you for joining us, sir. With this, we now announce our session open. Over to Shakuntala ma'am, the chairperson of the session.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would first like to welcome all the panelists here. Mr. Lav Verma, who was former secretary in the Department for Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, and Rachna, you're from the ILO. And of course, can you also introduce yourself?
Myself, Dr. Bharat Bhushan, Director, Student Services of Indira Gandhi National Open University.
Okay. So now we have been given, I think, 45 minutes, and our topic for the discussion today is continuous monitoring and innovative strategies for full inclusion. And the speakers today are Dr. Rachna Singh, National Project Coordinator, Sri Lav Verma, and Dr. Bharat Bhushan. So I would like to start with Dr. Rachna Singh. We've been given, I believe, not more than 15 minutes. So if you could just adhere to the time. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Shakuntala Gamblin, former Secretary, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and Chair for the session, Continuous Monitoring and Innovative Strategies for Full Inclusion. Mr. Lav Verma, former Secretary of Social Justice and Empowerment. Members on the dais, academicians, disability champions, students, parents, leaders, representatives from IGNU, officers from the government departments, friends from NGO, media and colleagues. Good afternoon and namaskar to you all once again. I would like to begin by congratulating Mr. Mukesh Gupta, Chairman Vision Divyang Foundation, and his team and IGNU for organizing conference of such a scale. It is indeed encouraging to note participation by diverse group of professionals to deliberate on various dimensions of inclusion of persons with disabilities. I'm new to the disability sector. I may look old, but I'm actually new to the sector. I'm here to learn from all of you. I also realize that I speak a little fast, so I would also request our speech interpreters to kindly interrupt me if I'm going too fast, so that I'm able to kind of do justice to all the people who are here and can also make sense from what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm sure you all would agree that disability sector is now beginning to attract attention from all areas, from the government, from NGO, from funders, from the corporate sector. And all sectors are also ensuring that no one should be left behind, which is the motto of Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Some of you would also agree that the positive contributions that the persons with disabilities can make to the world of work is increasingly recognized. And they are increasingly included in the development agenda. Disability is no longer an option, but imperative for achieving sustainable development goals. Providing equal opportunity in employment to all, ensuring that no one is left behind, is the pith and substance of the ILO's mandate, which is firmly founded on social justice. It is my pleasure and honor to be part of this august gathering today, to share the initiatives of ILO in ensuring inclusion of persons with disabilities in the world of work. Since we have students, parents, and representatives from the government and non-government organizations, I would like to take this opportunity to show 5 minutes film on the work of ILO, which is just not limited to disability inclusion or inclusion of persons with disability. Actually, when we come to such conferences, I think we are challenged at times. Just have some patience, I'm sure.
You can continue with your, the rest of your presentation.
Ma'am, the flow is actually from the film. So I thought I'll do that.
So you can tell us about the
Okay.
film. as in-
Okay, the film actually talks about the work of ILO in the world of work, and it is also talks about the countries that we are working in, and also the constituents and the partners that we work with. So, watching this film, nonetheless, ILO, I would like to talk about that ILO is the only UN entity which works with three important constituents in the development, which is the government, the corporates or the employers, and the workers. And all these three constituents actually work together to shape the policies and programs. In addition to these, ILO works closely with constituents, NGOs, and other organizations and individuals to implement projects to be connected to the community and to the people that it works for, and works very closely with the communities. Talking about the inclusion of persons with disabilities, we have made progress by developing programs, policies, revisiting our policies, and coming up with various acts, implementing disability-specific programs and technological advancement. Nonetheless, never like before, organizations are making conscious efforts to employ persons with disabilities. Still, a lot needs to be done to harness the potential of this important segment of population. And we have been hearing for the last 1.5 days that which are the sectors which have made progress, and we need to make significant progress, especially in the education sector, because that is the beginning of people in terms of gaining education. Okay. So I just want to talk about the few reminders. And the reminders, we have been actually listening since the last 1.5 days, that people with disabilities, particularly women with disabilities, face enormous attitudinal, physical, digital, and informational barriers to equal opportunities in the world of work compared to the non-disabled persons. They also experience higher rates of unemployment and economic inactivity, and are at a risk of insufficient protection that is the key to reducing extreme poverty. If we look at some of the data, which is like persons with disability face attitudinal and other barriers, which actually restricts their full participation in all the sectors of development. Persons with disability are more likely to be inactive, which is like 7 in 10 persons are supposed to be inactive compared to their counterparts without disability, which is 4 in 10 persons. Persons with disability also face barriers in education, which is the foundation for the overall development, and twice as likely as those without have a less than basic education, which means that they are actually left behind from the employment, from starting a business, getting other opportunities to even start their own business. So there are a lot of attitudinal barriers and the challenges that the persons with disability face, which are much more than the persons without disabilities. If we talk about the young people with disabilities, which is like young persons in the age group of 15 to 29 years with disabilities are up to 5 times more likely to be left or are not employed in the education and training, which is called the NEET, than their peers without disability. The NEET rates for young women with disability are even higher than those with the young women. So they bear the double burden of being a person with disability and also being a woman. The large number of young people with disability who are neither improving their future employability through investment in skills or nor gaining experience through employment are particularly at risk both at labor market and also of social exclusion. And we heard today in the morning when people said that it is also the persons with disability who face the exclusion at the family level, and also they have low self-esteem and confidence, which actually puts them further away from the arena of development. So if we talk about the work of ILO, I would like to talk about the how ILO actually implements or plans its program. So ILO's work is basically guided by a policy and strategy, and the strategy is made almost every 3 years. We also work very closely with the inclusion of persons with disabilities, organizations of persons with disabilities, and various networks like the employers group, employees resource group. Global Business Disability Network is another flagship program of ILO that I can say that we work very closely with the employers and associations, and we also implement disability inclusion projects. What is more important about the policy that the ILO has developed is that the senior management at the organization actually champions disability inclusion, and they ensure that the persons with disability are included in their all programs and projects. There's a strategic framework which is disability inclusive, and we monitor those progresses from time to time. We also work on removing the barriers to work environment by making the meetings persons with disability friendly, technologies which are accessible to persons with disabilities, and publications which actually raise awareness amongst the people who are working with the organization. ILO's program and projects also mainstream disability inclusion, and we carry out evaluations and conduct research from time to time to understand how far have we come and what more needs to be done to be more inclusive. I take this pride when I say that ILO staff are given greater opportunity to learn about the disability inclusion. We actually have a dedicated program which each and every staff member has to go through or has to complete within a limited time periods, so they understand the basics of including persons with disability, whether it is their own biases, how to work with a more open mind and being non-judgmental, what is the kind of language that we should be using with the persons with disability, and what is the kind of attitude that we should be looking people with. And most important is not to focus on disability, but to look at the abilities that each and every individual has. As I mentioned earlier, we also have disability inclusion groups and networks within the organization and outside the organization. So, Employees Resource Group is the group which is of the persons with disability and colleagues who have persons with disability. They are the people who are actually feeding into the programs and policies of the program. And ILO is a very, very open organization in terms of accommodating the suggestions that are made by these people. Then Disability Champions Network is a huge network which is actually of the persons with disability and also persons who are without disability. And they kind of take the agenda of the organization forward of including people with disability in all aspects of the program. As I was talking about the Global Business Disability Network, it is actually one of the unique programs or initiative of the organization. Why I say that it is unique? Because through this network, we are able to reach out to many, many countries, many organizations, and we have been able to make positive impact and influence on these organizations by actually developing tools of inclusion with them and also taking assessments that how these organizations are working. So this the data has been presented. We all know that 15% of the world's population is persons with disability, and we also keep saying that this data is much more than what we see on these documents. But 80% of the persons with disabilities are actually in the working age group, which means that we really need to think differently. We really need to think something out of box. And as we say that the time is running out of our hands, we really need to come together and do something which can improve the lives of the people and the society as a whole. So this network was actually established in 2010, and it is employer-led network, and it's a worldwide network, and we have 36 multinational enterprises, to name a few: Tata Consultancy Services, Accenture, Unilever, Standard Chartered Bank, Nestle, Merck, GSK, IBM, and many more. We also have 34 business disability networks which are at the national level, and India is one of the countries which also has a India Business Disability Network, has more than 100 members to this network. Besides the business partners, we also have non-business associate members, academic institutions, disability and development partners, international NGOs, who actually keep guiding the business world, employers, employees, about how to go about on the disability inclusion. We also realized while working on the inclusion processes and programs that we may have the knowledge on what needs to be done, but how to do it is the most challenging thing. And ILO as an organization is actually trying to build the capacities of the organizations and its constituents to understand the hows of disability inclusion or inclusion of persons with disability in their programs. So one of the things that the Global Disability Network, that it has its own steering committee, and these members actually guide the program from time to time. There is a charter which commits to its companies, signatories, on the 10 disability inclusion principles, and I would like to share these 10 principles with you, which is respect and promotion of rights, which we know that we need to ensure the rights of persons with disabilities, but how to do it is what we talk about in these principles. Non-discrimination, whether it is physical, attitudinal, digital, financial, we actually try and ensure this support to the organization. Equality of treatment and opportunities, accessibility, job retention, confidentiality, not to share the data if the person doesn't want to talk about their own disability, attention to all types of disabilities, not just focusing on one disability, collaboration, as I've talked about the various networks and the groups that we form, evaluation is an ongoing process, and knowledge sharing. How do we share knowledge? Is basically that we have a social media where more than 8,000 followers are there on the LinkedIn. There are peer-to-peer learning and knowledge exchange webinars, global regional workshops, roundtables, publications for technical guidance, and tools that we share with these organizations. There is a bi-monthly newsletter in English and Spanish, and we have more than 3,400 subscribers. And there is a regular update on Business Disability Network. We also support, as I mentioned, the National Disability Networks. Now, having worked at the policy level, at the organization level, at the network level, as I said, that we really want to learn from the community and from the people that we work with and work for. So we are also implementing some pilot projects across many countries. In India, we are also trying to understand disability inclusion in the rural livelihood, because we know that 69% of the persons with disability actually stay in the rural India. And if we are not thinking about them, that means we are really not making much progress. So as I mentioned, that the ILO follows the philosophy of twin track approach, where we actually work on specific disability interventions, but we also try and understand that how specific modifications can lead to the empowerment and contributions by persons with disability. So this is a project that we are going to be piloting where persons with disabilities are in the lead. And when I say the persons with disability are in the lead, is that we are actually going to be identifying persons with disability from the local community and training them on various aspects of inclusion and disability inclusion.
Sorry, Rachna, can you just wind up because I think you crossed by 5 minutes.
So capacity building, we know that we can't actually build the understanding of people, so capacity building is one aspect. Regular mentoring and on-the-job support is another area. Awareness raising is a very, very strong component of this project where we are actually going to be talking about on how to include persons with disability, because we realize that there are funds and schemes, but they never get, the funds never get utilized, and they don't also reach to the target people. So we are going to be working on this with the government departments, NGOs, families, corporates, everyone. Implementation of specific activities and evaluation is another area which is also an important component of this project. So thank you very much. I hope I'm able to keep my time. Thank you. I would be happy to take any questions if there are. Thank you very much.
I'm sure you have lots to say, but you can share your presentation with the organizers so that they can upload it on their website and everybody can go through it later. I think now I would request Mr. Love Verma, former Secretary, Department for Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, for his presentation.
Good afternoon. Session Chair, Ms. Shakuntala Gamlin, my fellow panelists, Dr. Rachna Singh, Dr. Rachna Singh and Dr. Bharat Bhushan, and friends. Let's make this interactive. How many of you have heard of Dr. Shashi Tharoor? Please raise your hands. Quite a few. He is the MP from Thiruvananthapuram. How many know that last year in December, he suffered a sprain in his left foot and came to the parliament in a wheelchair? Quite a few know about it. And then he tweeted about it. So let me read out some interesting things which came out of that particular experience of his. He tweeted, when you need to enter parliament in a wheelchair, there's only one entrance with a ramp at door 9, a good 4-minute trip with the assistance of helpers to the Lok Sabha. This temporary disability has taught me how poorly equipped we are to support people with disabilities. That was his tweet. And it is even more interesting to see what were the responses to that tweet, because some people are very harsh and I would even say rude. So one of them said, I see 3 people supporting you and yet you find facilities poor. You will never have an idea of how a common disabled person copes with life. So stop shedding crocodile tears. Get well soon. And others, let me give a couple more of the responses which he got. Well, no one really understands these issues 100% until it happens to them. Not to blame you or anyone, but at least you had the assistants who helped you. Imagine a disabled teacher who worked for 25 years, every day walking up the stairs to take classes on first floor. So these are some of the lived experiences of people with disabilities who have reacted to the tweet of Shashi Tharoor ji, who was only temporary, who had suffered a temporary disability. One can imagine, because others have also pointed out that the places like railways and transport arrangements, metros, parks, all these, sometimes they lack even the basic amenities of ramps or devices to help people get onto the transport facilities and so on. Basically, if you remember the Accessible India campaign, which was launched in 2000 and, who will give me the answer? When was it launched? The Accessible India campaign? 2015. Please give a clap for the correct answer, 2015. So in 2015, when it was launched, it had 3 verticals. The 3 verticals were built environment, transport, and digital and IT sector. Basically, what we need is continuous monitoring. As has been pointed out, I'm very glad that Vision Divyang with IGNU and other partners have organized this international conference, which not only talks about counseling but goes beyond and addresses some of the basic issues which are facing persons with disabilities. So it is said that what is not counted does not count. That is a basic, I think, principle which should guide us. So continuous monitoring is really the need of the hour. And what I found was that certain areas, like if we talk of built environment, then under the Accessible India campaign, the stations and the airports, international airports, starting with international airports and then continuing to the domestic airports, they are to be made accessible and friendly to persons with disabilities. Now this can only happen if it is monitored, continuously monitored at the highest level, and that can only be the cabinet secretary, because it is only he who can summon the secretaries which are responsible. So what is really needed, I think, is that we have committees right from the cabinet secretary level to the state level and to the district level to monitor how our programs and schemes, and also the act, the latest act. When was the latest act enacted? Can anybody tell me? I think that's a very easy question. Yes, Mr. 2016. So basically that also has to be implemented properly, and for that, in fact, in the act itself, it talked about a commission for persons with disability, and these commissions had to be at the national and at the state level, but they have not been set up. So basically what is needed is, I think, continuous monitoring at the highest levels, and also at the national and state and going down to the district level. So for that we need committees, and those committees should have persons with disabilities on them, because nothing about us without us. That is the guiding principle which we should follow. Now with this particular session also deals with innovative strategies. So let me talk about some innovative strategies which I have noted down. About 5 of them. One is the CSR, corporate social responsibility. Luckily, they have included persons with disabilities within the ambit of CSR, but I think unless a certain percentage, it can be 5%, it can be 2% even, because it's a fairly large sum. But unless a certain percentage is reserved for persons with disabilities, the money goes into other sectors, and persons with disabilities are neglected. So I would suggest that it should be mandated as a rule by the central government that a certain percentage of CSR should go to persons with disabilities. Secondly, all states should have persons with disabilities department. Can anyone tell me which was the first state to have a department for persons with disabilities? Andhra Pradesh in 1983. Well, then Karnataka. What about UP? UP was also among the 95. Okay. Mr. Pandey, who has been CCP, PWD, Mr. KK Pandey, he has all the answers. So I needn't trouble anybody else to give me the answer. Anyway, I think all states should have separate departments for persons with disabilities. That is very important, because that gives it a laser-like focus. What are the schemes which the PWs need and which can be implemented at the state level? That is the second strategy which I advocate. Another is that sign language should be part of the curriculum. I think it is very important for all of us to learn sign language, isn't it? And in fact, you might have seen on WhatsApp University the Axis Bank advertisement. Have you seen it? How many people have seen that? Axis Bank says that it should be the 23rd language, and it's a beautiful advertisement. I think it should be shared by the organizers of this wonderful conference. It should be shared on their website so that others can also see that sign language really needs to be taken up as an important priority. And I would suggest if it's part of the curriculum, then all of us can learn it at the school level, because that is where it really needs to be implemented. Then another, I think, low-hanging fruit would be that we should have a nominated member of the Raj Sabha from among persons with disabilities, so that he can give policy inputs. I don't expect it to happen in the Lok Sabha, but I would, of course, be very happy if there's some kind of reservation for persons with disabilities in the Lok Sabha, but I don't see it happening. When it's not happening for women, it's hardly likely to happen for persons with disabilities. But I think the low-hanging fruit is the Raj Sabha, because there is a provision there for 12 nominated persons. So out of those 12, one can easily be from the persons with disabilities. And that will help to give a sharper focus to policy formulation, and also it will give visibility. My final point is that though there is a provision in the latest act that there is reservation for persons with disabilities, what percentage is the reservation? I won't ask Mr. Pandey. Yes, please. 4%, absolutely right. It has been raised from 3% to 4%. But the problem is that often these reservations, they are not filled up. And nobody makes that effort to fill them up, which should be made. And there is no real penalty for that. That is one grouse which I have. Like there's a penalty under RTI in which the money goes out of the pocket of the government servant. We should have a similar penalty for not filling up posts which are reserved for persons with disabilities. Only then perhaps will persons realize, government servants realize their responsibility. And it should also be made as part of the ACR, the annual confidential reports, so that if we can have a separate entry for sensitivity to scheduled castes, we should also have sensitivity to PWDs. So that is my final strategy and innovative strategies. And we really need more of these international conferences. I was told that this is part of the RCI credit system also, which is why we have so many students. And I would be very happy if they take it up as a regular course, because now there are lots of courses which are approved by the RCI, and we really need more people in this line. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the precision of your presentation at the drop of 15 minutes. So now, before we lose much time, I would request Dr. Bharat Bhushan for his presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. The dignitaries on the dais, Madam Gamlin, the chairperson of this session, Mr. Lav Kumarji, former secretary, Government of India, Dr. Rachna ji from International Labour Organization, dignitaries sitting in the audience, very senior person, Professor Kundu ji, Dr. Mukesh Gupta ji, Honorable Vice Chancellor IGNOU, Professor Nageshwar Rao ji, who has just joined us in this today's program, trainees of Vision Institute, students, directors of Indira Gandhi National Open University, registrar, media personals, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to congratulate first Dr. Mukesh Gupta ji for organizing such a wonderful and meticulous international conference on a theme which is very relevant. Though I was planning to give a presentation on Indira Gandhi National Open University's role on counseling and student services extended by the university at different levels. But I am told the time available is very less, and we are lagging behind from the schedule.
No, we are not. You please continue. We want to finish on time. We still have 20
I
minutes.
will,
We have one more
I will
speaker.
try. I will try.
You please
the
exhaust
presentation
your
which I
15 minutes.
have prepared is with the organizers, but I would like to share and discuss on few words which are in circulation since last 1.5 days in this conference. And then I would also like to discuss about the efforts and contribution made by Indira Gandhi National Open University in our own perspective as far as reaching to the unreached, including Divyangjans. As we know, Indira Gandhi National Open University is one of the largest universities of the world, having more than 35 lakh students on rolls currently, an equal number of students have passed out. And university, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor yesterday shared with you all who were present in this convention center, that our system of education is very much depends on counseling. Counseling plays a very important role in every stage of our life, even during our younghood, when our childhood time. The counselings for various reasons are given by our parents, our elder brothers and sisters, and family members. When we come to school, our teachers, extending help in developing ourselves or making ourselves enable to understand something or to able to do something, the counseling plays very important role in that. In Indira Gandhi National Open University, where we don't have face-to-face teaching in more than 300 programs which university is offering in distance mode. In this, we develop course material where we see that teacher is inbuilt in that course material, which is made available to our learners. In that material, all sort of content, sort of counseling, self-assessment, content, self-discipline, self-motivation, self-evaluation is inbuilt. And when we go through that text material, one will find that even teacher is inbuilt in that course material. Somewhere you will find that as if we are being taught in a classroom. If we are teaching, as per education pedagogy, if communication is established between teacher and student who are sitting in the class, then real education takes place when teaching learning process. In the same way, in distance learning material, it is written in such a way that that communication is established. Like in classroom teaching, students are asked by the teacher many questions which are required to be asked from the students So that environment is inbuilt in our course material. Apart from that, for giving a face-to-face experience, we have more than 2,500 study centers which are working under 58 regional centers spread all over India, from Port Blair to Leh Ladakh and from Kutch to Itanagar, Nagaland. Every state is represented by our regional centers. And then further, those regional centers are able to perform and reach to every unreached through our study centers. This is one. Second thing, as the topic of the international conference is SDG, Sustainable Development Growth, which is a word which is very much relevant as far as today's environment is concerned, very much relevant. Sustainable development, when we talk about sustainable development, it means that whatever resources we are having or which are available with us, we have to perform within those resources. We will not find any example which is most suited as far as sustainable development is concerned than distance education system in this country. Because distance education system is a system where we are using very limited resources which are available to us, and the resource sharing with the conventional universities also. Our study centers, which are spread all over India, are the colleges, institutions of conventional universities. They are playing a role of counselors there for those programs which are on offer already and we are also offering. Under certain MOUs, we have identified program-wise counselors for our programs. Apart from this, for disability, I would like to touch upon one or two more points with the permission of the chair. IGNOU is a university, I think it is one of the unique and only university in this country which is having a separate division to work on disability studies in the name of National Center for the Studies of Disabled Studies. So we have this university made disabled friendly. Wherever you go in the campus of this university, every school, division, cell, center is disabled friendly. We have tried to develop, make access to every disabled student also. And in the same way, our all regional centers are also disabled friendly. During COVID time, our Honorable Vice Chancellor inaugurated one program under the umbrella of Equal Opportunity Cell and National Center for Distance Education, Disability Studies, Samvad. Under this program of Samvad, we orient our all regional centers, faculty, staff, members of the university as well as students.
Dr. Bhushan, I'm sorry, you'll have to wind up now. Okay. We have another speaker.
University is in our own way, we are able to do and become more student friendly as far as disabled students are concerned. And as I have been seeking more time, but I am not getting. Thank you very much for patience learning. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Panelists, especially Dr. Rachna, who spoke on the employment opportunities as a sister organization of the UN Human Rights Commission, I think all wings of the UN are also getting sensitized to the disability inclusion. And the network which she spoke about in the employment opportunities and barrier-free environment. I would also like to thank Dr. Love Verma for speaking on Accessible India, representation of the disabled in the political platform, as well as, he even brought out the tweet of, Shashi Tharoor's, sitting on the wheelchair and trying to access. I remember when I organized the disability art program in the parliament, I found that there was no ramp on the stage, and I had to literally carry my disabled artist on the wheelchair, and there was 3 months of continuous practice. So I would say we still have a lot of gap and a lot of distance to cover, but so be it. It's a rights-based approach, and all of us know about it. And of course, I would also like to thank Dr. Bharat Bhushan and this university for having a disability affairs department, which is unique in its own way, because other universities are yet to start a disability affairs department, as well as even in the state government, we still have to start disability affairs department and other aspects of disability affairs in terms of the quasi-judicial, the regulatory, the trained professionals. There's a lot of distance to cover. I'm glad Rajesh Agarwal is here, who's now at the helm of affairs, and I think central government and the Act has, been on the center stage to sensitize the state governments. And it's an act which is universally applicable, but having the state governments to get the different verticals, the different stakeholders together has been a challenge. And we have come a long way. We shall discuss and take it forward. So thank you, and thank you to the audience here. Thank you very much.
So much for such an insightful session. And I'm sure we have got so much to learn from our speakers. I would now request our prodigies, Mr. Mukesh and our very honorable Prasad sir, to kindly felicitate our speakers. Our session chair, Ms. Shakuntala Dolly Gamlin ma'am. Speakers, Rachna Singh, Shri Love Verma sir, former Secretary, MSJ, Government of India, Dr. Bharat Bhushan sir, Director, Student Service Center, IGNOU. Felicitating ma'am with the SDG award. Prasad sir, we request you to be on the dais. Felicitating Shri Love Verma sir, IAS, former Secretary, MSJ, Government of India. Dr. Bharat Bhushan sir, Director, Student Service Center, IGNOU. I request everyone to take their place for the group photograph, please. Along with this, we would also like to call upon stage Mr. Rama Sharma sir, Director, CBSE.
Not now. We'll invite later.
Okay.
We'll invite her later.
Okay. Shall we start with the valedictory now? I request all the students to kindly settle down. We are about to begin with the valedictory session.
Now we have the valedictory session, the most important session of this conference. So we'll request all of you to be seated, and we are having our chief guest we have with us our secretary sir Shri Rajesh Agarwal ji. मैं चाहूँ जोरदार तालियों से उनका हम स्वागत करें. And after from his busy schedule, he has been able to take out time, and we'll continue with the session. And in just a while, we'll invite him to the stage. Yeah. Okay, he's coming. So let's give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Shri Rajesh Agarwal ji. May request Shri Lavarma sir to kindly step on the dais. And we also request the Vice Chancellor of IGNOU, Professor Nageshwar Rao sir. जोरदार तालियां हो जाए हमारे Vice Chancellor sir के लिए.
A very hearty good afternoon to everyone. I, Kanupriya, on behalf of Vision Divyang Foundation and Vision Institute of Advanced Studies, take this opportunity to welcome each one of you to the valedictory session of International Conference on Significance of Counselling and its Resources for SDGs. With this, I request Mukesh Gupta sir, S.K. Prasad sir, and Kusum Gupta ma'am to kindly welcome our guests on the dais with a planter. Kindly present the planter. Rajesh Agarwal sir, Shakuntala Gamlin ma'am, Shri Rajesh Agarwal sir, Shri Lav Verma sir, and Professor Nageshwar Rao sir, Vice Chancellor IGNOU. Valedictory session open, and I would now like to call upon the stage for the way forward the conference summary, Dr. S.K. Prasad sir, Director IGNOU NCDS. Sir.